Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, and shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today? Well, you can probably tell by today's title, I finally remembered to speak about Little Gator game because I finished it recently. There will be I was going to say I'm going to warn you if I get to any spoilers, but it's not really a game which has big spoilers in my opinion. It's nothing which, like, the spoilers, or the plot is very, you know what's going to happen, and that's not in a bad sense. I think it's a very comfy game, and so overall I really genuinely really liked it. Like, it's up there with a short hike, I think, for me. With different things I think it ends up focusing on. But hello there, everyone. Renowned Fawnhallow at 6:28 p.m. on Saturday, April 26th, 2025. So yeah, I'm going to talk about Little Gator game. I'm not going to do any creation or anything. Any of my gameplay is not going to be related to it. This is literally my video diary where I speak random nonsense for about 20 minutes or so. But yeah, on the whole, I really enjoy Little Gator game because I think it's, you know, similar to the fact that I enjoyed a short hike. If you like a short hike, you might like a Little Gator game. I think your mileage may vary a little bit because I think the movement in a short hike feels like a lot nicer in a sense. Or Little Gator game, it does feel nice as well, but it feels like a different sort of nice, if that makes sense. Little Gator game, the most fun thing was climbing up someone and just gliding forever down. Or Little Gator game almost feels like you're sort of like a kid running around with like a hyperactive energy, or not hyperactive, but with bundles of energy sort of going around swinging, mashing buttons. And I will say skateboarding or sliding down on whatever your shield is so incredibly fun in that game, to almost uncontrollably reckless degree. But what would I talk about? In general, I think it was a really nice, fun game, to be honest. It's very comfy, it's cozy, it's very warm-hearted. The story is nice through the beginning and end. It's got a very sweet sense of humour, and the characters I really enjoyed, and it has some very strong, heartfelt moments, especially towards the end of the game. I think that if you look at Little Gator game, you look at the trailer, you will basically know if you think it's your game or not. Like, it wears its heart on its sleeve, it knows exactly what it is, it's a cozy game. I'm here to tell you there is no hidden agenda or plot behind it, as in the fact that it's not really a secret, mechanically demanding game in disguise. It is cozy, it's warm, there is no failure state, essentially. It's, I would say, probably a bit kind of 50-50 on its more exploration focused, in the sense that unlike a short hike where you have a clear goal of get to the top of a mountain, like Little Gator gamers, you have vague ideas of things of what you do, like find your friends, but you're not like given a map or anything. The navigation can be a little bit confusing, I would say, in the game. It very much more encourages a sort of mindless wandering about and stumbling across things, which is actually how I played it, which is very rare for me. But I think its tutorial kind of like showed me immediately, this is like how you might get your best mileage out of a game. And I was like, okay, fine, I will turn off the achievement goals oriented part of my brain and just engage with it as it is in a sort of like ambling, wandering way. And I think it works better with that. If that doesn't seem like your sort of thing, then fair enough. It's not like an exploration game which will have like tons of little secrets. It's more like an exploration game where you sort of amble around and you'll discover a random character, essentially. And it's very fun, it's very sweet. Like, I love ensemble cast, and I think Little Gator game has it in spades. It does an absolutely wonderful job introducing you to a character, and you'll hang out with that character for like a few minutes or something, and then they're gone. You get very quickly communicate. They very efficiently, very quickly communicate the exact character's sort of like nature, like why they're memorable, etc., etc., all within a few lines, and then boom, you get to see them later on as you essentially make friends. I'm going to say from here on out, all spoilers off Little Gator game. I'm going to be honest, I don't think the spoilers matter at all for this game, but if you want to go in completely blind, then so be it. But I think it's the real selling point of Little Gator game, apart from its nice sort of like ensemble character cast, is it's got like its core heart of a game is very sweet and it's very wonderful, I think. It's basically the story of two siblings, a much younger sibling and a much older sibling, and we're sort of not slowly drifting apart, but like the distance put between them, as the older one, like how they used to play together all the time and have so many wonderful memories together built on playing games together, these make-believe role-play sort of style games. And then that older sibling goes off to college and then coming back for the fall break and seeing the sort of distance of like, oh, the older sibling the older sister doesn't want to play with us anymore, big sis as she's called. And then the entire premise of the game is the younger sibling, the little Gator, trying to rope the sister into playing by making a huge, massive sort of role-play game with all of their friends, and then having it be such a fun time that the big sis will be like, hey, I want to get in on that action. Obviously, you know straight off the bat it's not going to work. In fact, one of the characters even says this is not going to work, that what you should do is just have a conversation with her. And then the little Gator's like, no, we're going to do this anyway. And that is the premise of the game. And then you just have a wonderful time going around the island, like, of course, low stakes everything, just very casually walking about. You defeat some cardboard enemies here and there. You find a random like stranger and they're like, oh, I want help with this sort of thing. Like, I've lost my XYZ item, where is it? And then it's like, well, a fetch quest. Or it's like, hey, can you help me do this thing? You know, like dive into the water. And you'll be like, whoa, of course I can. Very, very simple non-committal quests. And through it, you get cosmetics, you get different tools. But the real part of like what will make or break Little Gator game for you is if you like visiting and just finding these random NPCs, having a short conversation where you find, oh, this person's personality is they are scared of heights, but for some reason they climbed up to a really high point and now they just need courage. Or this character is just like a one-off character where they just sleep in a pot all day. And it's very cute. There's the entire heart of the game has this childlike whimsy and innocence to it, which really sort of is nostalgic in many ways, but also is very sweet and wholesome. You also do meet more characters who have more fleshed out things, like your close friends Jill, Martin and Avery, and their friends as well. You learn more about them and engage with them more often, which leads to some very fun reactions and interactions. I think my favourite character ended up being Esme, who is a vampire bat, she just loves the gothic and vampire horror and movies, and basically spends the entire time pretending she's a vampire. It's so ridiculous, it's fun. Low battery apparently. But there's a whole colourful cast of characters. And at least for me, it's actually a fantastic game to stream of Let's Play, because you need to come up with like 50 different voices for all these different characters. And they do a very good job of telegraphing exactly what the character's like. The first words they say to you are completely in personality. And you're like, oh, this character's a shy character. Or, oh, this character just is full of bravado or something like that. It leads to some very charming moments as well. You know, I think it's a game full of very sort of, how should I say? I was going to say like childlike humour, but I don't mean it in a childish way where it's like juvenile. I mean it in the way where it's got like a sort of a naivety, I suppose, to it. Like the one that stands out to me is when, for Esme's quest, where she wants some ice cream. And you try and buy some ice cream from the ice cream person, but then it's like, oh, you need money for the ice cream, and then this person the little Gator doesn't have $3, so she tries to borrow some money from their friend Jill, but Jill doesn't have enough money, so they try and get another friend in, and they're like, oh, I don't have enough money, and then they're like, okay, big sis, can I ask for 1 nickel? So then together I have enough money to buy an ice cream. And then the big sis obviously just cracks up laughing at this and then gives the little Gator $6 so they can buy a friend and themselves ice cream. And it's just like, it's so unbelievably wholesome. And I think that sequence encapsulates Little Gator game very well. It's like silly fun of like for the mind of a child being like, oh, you know, you've only got $2.50 down, let's try and find someone else. And you being like, oh, you've only got 45 cents, well, we've almost got enough for $3. Hey, big sis, can I get 5 cents? And then of course, you know, being an adult, you go, this is absurd and it's so silly. And then it tops it up with a lovely sweet sort of cherry on top of a big sis being like, okay, treat yourself, come on. But yeah, the characters are the lifeblood of Little Gator game. If you don't engage with them, if you don't like them, or if you don't jive with them, I don't think you'll like this game. which means it'll be very quick, I think, to find out whether it is your sort of game or not. But like, I mean, you can probably watch a first episode, not to plug my own Let's Play, but if you watch a first episode of my Let's Play of Little Gator Game, or anyone's episode, like first 20 minutes, and you're like, I can't stand these characters, don't play this game. You're not going to like this game. But if you're like, oh, I love this is sweet, play this game. You're going to love this game. Probably. I think it's got a very charming soundtrack as well. It's very casual, it's very chill, and then it like even changes up depending on some of the locations you go to. Because like you go to, one of your friends is Avery, they have a load of friends in the drama club, that's where Esme is, and each of the friends has like a different theme. Like one of them's like a country cowgirl, and she's got like a banjo playing. One of them's like a space, what's that? Like a atomic. Is that what it's called? Atomic space punk sort of vibe. I don't know why it's not. Is it just called Atomic Space? What's that aesthetic called? Atomic Space Punk? Or no, Atom Punk. That's it, right? With a very sort of retro space theme with a fishbowl helmets, and then it's got like that sort of I think it's got like a retro sound. I can't actually remember what his one is like, to be honest. And then you got Esme's like very sort of gothic sounding like music, or played on like a harpsichord or something. I don't think it happens like all the time, but there's so many different characters in there, which it's very easy, I think, for me to remember them and sort of like latch onto them. Kind of like how Here Comes Nico did it, except for I think this one has more of a focus on these individual characters. While Here Comes Nico is kind of more like environment, is probably what I'd say, like the environmental characters. Each of these characters is very individual, and they're all a lot of fun. As I said, I think Esme's one of my favourite. I think Suzanne's also probably up there. Big Sis has got to be up there. Oh, what's his name? Lucas is definitely up there. And they're very charming, I think. Very right. Tiffany. How can I forget Tiffany and her mum Carol? And you just spend some time basically with them as well, as you basically resolve whatever thing plot point they have. But a lot of the stories they have like a nice sort of heartwarming core as well. Like Tiffany and Carol's is super nice as well, where Carol is like, she's a business mum. She's like on the phone on time, trying to sort things out or whatever. And Tiffany is someone like, she's dressed like as a princess. She just wants to have a sort of simple tea party play date. But she, knows her mum's super busy, and she's like, I don't want to disturb her, essentially. But, I've been waiting so long to play with her. And then you, as a little gator, goes there and talks to the mum. And the mum goes, whoa, it's not been that long. And we goes, whoa, hold on, it's been so long. Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to take this business stuff later. I've got a tea party to attend. And it's super heartwarming. Because it could easily be like, oh, the mother doesn't care, or the mother's just so buried and like needs like a revelation. But really, it's just she lost track of time. She got so buried in her work. But she really does take time for her child. And then Tiffany learns as well to be able to sort of speak up a bit as well. And they just like, the after epilogue as well is like, they just have like a very lovely conversation with each other. And they just have the adorable sort of tea party play date. Yeah. And it's just like short little snippets like that. Like some of them, I would say you don't get much mileage, I think, out of a story. Like, I'm trying to think, like one of the guys, he broke his like wheelie board thing. You fix it, and he's like, whoa, cool. And that's basically it. One of them is like, there's like the three who have a picnic and they just have the wrong foods, then they swap foods. There's not really much mileage in that or whatever, but it's cute. It's just like these cute little snapshots of these characters. And then that's it. You sort of like slowly amass them and collect them together. It really does feel like you're making friends, I'd say, and sort of collecting all these friends. Yeah, and then they make the most ridiculous thing. Like, if these children are incredible at arts and crafts, they make a whole plywood civilization, essentially, which is absolute insanity. How they did it, I've got no idea whatsoever, but they did it somehow. It's incredible. And then you get to the nice part as well, is like the story, which is sort of underpinning all of this. I found that as I played, I kind of forgot what we were doing this all for, was to impress our big sis. But we were just having a lovely time sort of like making friends and making this lovely town together, where you see all the people that you've met and you can have a like short conversation with them, essentially, when they're in the town. And then you'd like try and get your big sis back in, be like, look at this cool game we're playing. And then the big sis says like, sorry kid, come on, like, I know what you're trying to do. Really, it's sweet, but I'm not a child anymore. I gotta focus on the studies. It's really important, especially, you know, and they say very relatable things. I'm doing a group project and the other people aren't putting their weight. And, you know, I need to do this to be able to forge the future that I want. And then the little Gator obviously understands, and you kind of knew internally all along this was going to be the answer, and dejectedly goes back. And then the friends are just like, come on, you idiot. That's what we've been saying this entire time. Just have a heart-to-heart conversation. And then they have an absolutely adorable heart. Well, actually, to be fair, they have a whole sort of dream sequence, essentially, where the little Gator reflects upon the pressure the big sis must be under as well for creating this game, and what the game means to both the little Gator and the big sis as well, and how it's been such a beautiful bonding moment between them. And it's like they don't want to lose that, essentially, but they understand that as it gets older, it's harder to sort of fit it into the life as well. And then they have a heart-to-heart conversation where the little Gator engages with the big sis, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, there you go, engages with a big sis on, you know, being like, how was university, and like having a real sort of charming chat without trying to like lure the big sis over. And then the big sis reflects upon the same memories, I think, which the little Gator has from her perspective, where she sees that she's been put in very difficult situations, even as like a young adult, being like, oh, having to move away to attend a school for the dream that she wants, having to work so hard to become like a front runner and things like that. And then she finally decides to take a break and then join in with her younger sibling and see what celebrations and adventures and things that they've been going up to. And then it's just a very cute sort of Polaroid sequence at the end of the game where you see all the characters hanging out and having a good time. And then they get a really nice balance at the end where it's like, oh yeah, the big sis is still, you know, kind of working. Actually, she's looking at memes on her laptop. So, but she doesn't have the energy to keep up with all the other kids as well. But she's still there as part of the town, just like she's in her own little witch's hut. And an absolutely adorable thing is that as you play the game, you go around and you see all these very sort of memory silhouettes of each other, them being younger, and seeing like the big sis putting on this cute game for the little Gator. And it's very nostalgic in a way, I think, to look at it and be like, oh, you know, reflecting all these good times. Probably very nostalgic as well if you're older or younger sibling, if you have a sibling at all, and you see it and you're just like, oh yeah, you know, remembering those times we used to play, which obviously may not happen now, or depending on your sibling relationship. It's so unbelievably sweet. And my absolute favourite part is you can take not all those memories. I really wish it was all those memories. But after the epilogue of a game, you talk to your big sis and you bring up her memories, being like, hey, remember when we slept in the riverbed that one time? And then they just like reflect upon that. It's my one thing. It's going to be so small. I wish there was more post-game dialogue for that. I wish they talked about every memory you found. And you talk to a big sis about it, and it's sort of like a way to sort of like collate them all together. But yeah, it's beating core and heart of a game is the sort of personal relationships. It's a very, I think, relatable story for a lot of people. It's very pretty realistic as well, and it doesn't look at any point to sort of like pull the rug from underneath your feet. It's a predictable game for sure, but it's very sweet and it knows exactly what it's doing. It wears its heart on its sleeve and it does it well, in my opinion. At the end of the day, I don't think necessarily it's going to be everyone's cup of tea. It kind of depends on how much you want this sort of cozy experience and how much this particular style of coziness appeals to you. Because I will say, its movement is a little bit strange at times. Like, it doesn't always feel super smooth. It feels like very uncontrollable in a sense. And I think some people may not necessarily like feel it comfy in the same way, and like they might, even if they like a short hike, they might not quite like this game, maybe because it feels a bit more aimless in a sense and it's very easy to get lost. But there's one thing, I feel like it's a bit too easy to get lost in the game, like navigationally. I'm not sure, like maybe it needs like more distinctions in the environment between it, so it's like, oh yeah, this is like this area, this is this area, this is this area. Unrealistic, yes, but it would be at least easier to sort of like signpost yourself, or just have a map. Like, I'm surprised they didn't give you a map. There is like a park map billboard, but it's really hard to like use it as much of a map in any way. But it makes sense because like they're basically impersonating Legend of Zelda or any sort of adventure like that. So I mean, it feels like right on cue for the hero to have a map. Anyway, little Gator game. Absolutely adore it. It's a fantastically adorable, cute, cozy game. That's all I had to say about Matter. And it's definitely one which I think was actually very much heightened by recording the playthrough rather than actually just playing it by myself. Because again, doing all these character voices is really fun, I think. And it was just a nostalgic sort of vibe. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode up here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons and I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.